Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I've done a couple of more homeworks on some players that will be entering their name into the NBA draft, we believe, because last minute stuff could always happen, and some of these guys may not, but I think these guys are closer to the end of the lottery, so it's likely they probably won't opt out. The three names, it's not two today, it's three of them. The three names I'd like to mention are Bennett Stirtz, Braylon Mullins, and Kareem López. I did homework on those guys over the last 3 days, Kareem being the first one 3 days ago, or 2 days ago, and then yesterday being Braylon Mullins, and today Bennett Stirtz. So I'll start with the one that's most recent for me, which is Bennett Stirtz. I still have a lot more homework to do with him as to where I think I completed my homework on Braylon and Kareem, so take that for what it's worth. But I think with Bennett Stirtz, I walk away saying he is the Steve Nash of Tyus Jones's. That's what comes to mind. He's 6'4", but he actually looks a little smaller than that to me. So I'm not really sure if that's correct. He looks like he's more like 6'2", but that's just me looking at him from afar. Not very athletic, but excellent playmaker, fantastic shooter, very good footwork, pick and roll specialist, somebody who you can run your offense, but probably would be best with the ball in his hands rather than being asked to be an off-ball player. Definitely somebody that you can say is a one-way guy. I don't think I heard much about his defense at all. On the offensive end, though, he goes crazy. Really superior interior scorer despite not getting off the ground very high. I think of a guy like Tony Parker who specialized with laying the ball up and stuff like that, would get in the half-court settings center-like interior scoring percentages and numbers. That's Bennett Stirtz. For some reason or another, he just has fantastic teardrops. You think of a guy like Trae Young. He has spectacular ability to score in the paint despite not having really any explosiveness. He can dunk the ball, though. He's not deficient dunking the ball per se, but a good 90% of the time he's going for the lay. But he's extremely efficient. He's going to connect. I think they said he had like 75% shooting interior numbers in a half-court setting. Now, mind you, this is in a situation with him playing for Iowa, and from what I understand with Iowa, they tend to play a slow-down offense. So they're rendered to the half-court. They're rendered to, playing with a shorter floor. And within that setting, he's able, with his 6'4" frame, to get in the lane and score over centers and defenders and stuff like that. Now, I don't know if it's going to translate to that much success in the NBA when you consider the type of centers that you're going to be going up against in the league. It's an entirely different type of rim protection, obviously. And he did tend to struggle, especially early in his season with Iowa, with on-ball pressure. Athletic, hyper athletes, that kind of thing. They were forcing him into some circumstances where he couldn't drive past them, thus you didn't get that dynamic. But it is what stood out for me. His shooting numbers and his overall efficiency numbers are spectacular from all three levels. Shoots the three ball extremely well, mid-range very well, play makes extremely well, and this is why I say that he's like Steve Nash-ish kind of guy, because what you end up getting out of him is extreme efficiency and low turnovers. This is why I brought up Tyus Jones, because Tyus Jones is known for not really turning the ball over at all despite getting high assist numbers. Now, that was something that was 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know if he's still been able to accomplish that as he's gone later into his career and been a journeyman. But when he was with Memphis and some of the time when he was with Phoenix specifically, it was said very much in Orlando as well that you could get high assist numbers out of him with very low turnovers. And that's exactly what Bennett Stirtz is also known for as well. So this is somebody, again, you probably do not want to ask to play off ball, but on the ball, he's extremely special. Pick and roll, extremely special. Playmaking, passing, extremely special. And he just has an it factor about himself that makes you feel good that if you put him in a situation where he has athletes around him, where he has adequate rim protection, and adequate interior offensive play as well on the other end, this dude can be a primary playmaker and point guard for your team. But the problem is, if you don't have the role for him, you could really make it so that you don't get anything out of him. And because this is a league and a draft, but more so the league as a whole, with a lot of guards, I think he's highly dependent. Getting the most out of him is highly dependent on him landing in the right situation, and the right situation is become few and far in between in this league right now for guards. A lot of guards they have to be able to play off ball, because a lot of times the players that are on the team, even though they play different positions, often are ball handlers. You talk about Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, talk about Brandon Ingram and players like that. They're going to have the ball in their hands a lot of time. So if you go to that team, there's a good chance that you probably aren't going to be able to get the most out of Ben Stirtz, depending on the situation. But he's extremely cerebral. He's going to get the ball to others, and if you have other playmakers and shooters around him, he could be a part of a devastating offense. So I think this is a point guard that can, think about a guy like T.J. McConnell, maybe a little better from what some saying on the offensive end. Defensively, I don't think that I heard much about his defense at all. So I just have to exclude myself from the defensive side of the conversation. Again, I have so much more homework to do on him for myself to even know what the heck is going on with the defense. I watched 3 videos this morning. I don't remember the word defense even mentioned in any of those videos. But I know he's under athletic. He's below average in terms of his athleticism and explosiveness. I would imagine that translates to some issues with what his ceiling would be defensively just to begin with. But the shooting, the playmaking, the Steve Nash type stuff, he's pretty damn talented. And so I think this is a player that can really help. I heard him compared to what's the guy who just went down in Indiana. High end of things. He could be that type of point guard. I've heard a couple other names as well. Usually point guards who tend to play, make, and shoot the ball very well. So he's a quintessential point guard. Under athletic, but highly efficient, highly intelligent, basketball IQ out of this world. He's definitely an NBA player, but I'm just concerned about what his future holds in the NBA if he goes to the wrong situation. And the wrong situation is in most situations when you consider what his needs are and just how many guards are actually out there who don't have that problem necessarily. He can get lost. But if he finds the right situation, I think he could be a fantastic point guard. So you think about teams like Dallas, who could definitely use a guard from anywhere. You would hope, if you're Dallas, to be able to land a pick ahead of where Bennett Stirtz is drafted, unfortunately. You just don't expect for Bennett probably taking 11, 12, something like that. Dallas should be going in the top 8. So I don't know if that's going to actually plan out unless somebody trades down or something happens where his value goes up. But that would probably be the best place that comes to mind immediately, where he can come in, be himself. Him and Cooper Flagg would be phenomenal together. I think of a team like Houston, another team that unfortunately is not going to be picking his range in theory, but that would be a great fit for him because he can come in and be a point guard there. Although they do have Van Fleet probably coming back healthy next season, he could still really run and help the point guard position. I think off the bench, when you talk about what the needs are, the Houston Rockets, they could use really anything off of their bench. So I like him there. Where else? There are some teams. I heard Golden State. I don't think that's really that great, to be honest with you. But that could be interesting with how many of their guards play off ball, including Steph Curry. Maybe they could use another playmaker. Him and Draymond Green could be fun, seeing them passing the ball around and stuff like that. So I guess that's an interesting spot. I heard someone mention Sacramento. I don't really know if I have the vision there with that. Milwaukee could be interesting for a guy like Bennett Stirtz because obviously with Giannis in place, in theory, although I do think he could potentially be moving on, they have a need for a guard like this to play with Giannis if it works out. But pick and roll could be fun. So there's a lot of spots that he could go to, especially if you want to expand your idea about what Bennett Stirtz can be as it pertains to where he fights in the lineup. If you're trying to find a starting spot, there may not be a lot of them. But if you're trying to bring him off the bench as a guy who can run your second unit and third units, I think he can fit anywhere in the NBA. Anywhere in the NBA. So that's the thing about Bennett Stirtz. I like what I saw. I did, but I just think that it's incumbent upon him having the ball in his hands, and then from there, other things around him being able to do the things that he cannot do to get the most out of him. And I don't know how many teams really want to render themselves to a one position under athletic whiz of an offensive talent. I don't know that many teams necessarily need that in place of other things that maybe they can find in this draft. So I think it's a decent chance that he could fall to the back of the first round or middle back of the first round, 21, 22, 23. I think he can actually fall. But I think with that being the case, the value is skyrockets. What you expect for him to accomplish being that, especially if you have the role for him, could be really, really good. I think it's too rich for me taking him in the top 10 like some people were saying 6 months ago. But he, it was one of those situations where they were expecting him to have a better season with Iowa than he did because he transferred from somewhere else and had a phenomenal season there. Maybe he didn't have the greatest start. And that's something that I'm starting to realize is going on with some of these players in this 11 to 15 range. Is they were highly touted prior to, and then had a slow start to the season with this with their collegiate club, and it's affected their draft stock. So some of these guys probably going to outplay that once they get to the league, especially if they get into the right situation. And so, it could be some really good value down there in the second half of this first round. So yeah, that's about as much as I can say about him, Bennett Stirtz. I just think that he's somewhere in the ballpark of a Tony Parker scoring in the paint type of guy. Steve Nash overall court vision, not necessarily the flair or that high of a level, but that's kind of what you're hoping he would be on the high end. And then like a Tyus Jones for a more realistic approach to what it is you ultimately think he's going to bring to the table. So I'm high on him, to be honest with you. If I have the right situation, I would not hesitate to take him because I know he's going to be flashy. He's going to be fun to watch. He's going to hit a high percentage. He's likely going to outplay the role you give him if you have tempered expectations for the type of role he should be getting. He'll outplay it. And if your point guard goes down, let's say he goes to a Memphis or something like that, let's say Ja goes down, you feel great about Bennett Stirtz coming in and running your offense and maybe even stealing that starting spot from him if Ja's going too long. So that's what I think of Bennett Stirtz, man. I like him. I like him a lot, actually. I think he was fun to watch. Highlights from he's a little more strangle-held to proper circumstances than maybe some of these other guys in his range. All right, next guy I want to talk about is Braylon Mullins out of UConn, shooting guard, sniper, 6'6", 196 is his measurements or what have you. I thought this was a really, really phenomenal prospect, man. I have a balanced understanding about him because just like Bennett Stirtz, Braylon Mullins also came into last year with super high expectations and got off to a slow start to his collegiate career, but then it's come full circle because he hit the big shot in the Final Four game, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it the Elite 8 game? Whatever game that was that kicked Duke out, he was the guy with the big shot. So now his stock has risen back up. Just lost in the championship game. But Braylon Mullins is terrific on both sides of the floor. He is extremely tenacious on the defensive end. That's what I took away from Mullins. When you're talking about a sniper, somebody who can really go, you tend to expect they can't really defend very well. This guy is an excellent defender. And he shoots like some type of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson type hybrid. This is a very, very, very talented player. And I do think if you get him at 14 or 15, he's likely going to outplay that value. He's actually probably a top 8 guy, low-key. But he just didn't have that type of season. And from what I understand, a lot of that had to do with UConn and the way their offense was set up, not really exploring as many things as he could do. He's athletic. He can get off the ground. He's not sneaky athletic. He's athletic. He can dunk some. And they didn't really explore a lot of that. But you can run this dude off the screens. He is a fantastic movement shooter. In fact, probably the most talented movement shooter I've seen in probably 2 seasons. 2 drafts. They didn't have anybody that I thought was as good of a shooter off the move last draft as this guy. He is as good of a movement shooter as you're going to find And the shot is perfect, man. I mean, he just has one of the most beautiful shots in the entire draft. He can shoot off the dribble. He can shoot off the catch. He can play on ball, off ball. Run him off of screens. I would love to see him get into a situation where you have a creative coach that runs him off of so many different screens, finding him in the corner, finding him on the elbows. He has a mid-range game, take it off the dribble a little bit. I think he's a 3-level guy. So this is a legitimate two-way talent with elite skills on both sides of the floor. Not necessarily a playmaker. He can be a nice piece for being connective to a degree, but you're not picking him up for his Bennett Stirtz-like passing ability or nothing like. He's not that type of guard. He's a shooting guard through and through, and he's just highly energetic, kind of antsy on the defensive end. Can't really stand still, which is probably a good thing. Excellent with his hands. Excellent in passing lanes. He can dive into the passing lanes, catch errant pass and send it the other way, hit a 3 in transition or drive at the rim. I'm a fan, man. I'm a fan. You guys know who my favorite players in this draft have been thus far. You can just add Braylon Mullins to that conversation. I'm a Braylon Mullins guy for certain. Him, Mikael Brown, Keaton Wagler, Yaxel Lindenberg, Thomas Howell, those are my favorite players in this draft. Aside from the top 4, who are just obvious, DeBonce Peterson, Boozer, and Wilson, they go without saying. They're in their own category. But when it comes to like the meat and potatoes of this draft, you want to know who I like? Those are the names that I like in this draft. Those are the ones, man. And Braylon Mullins is yet another one. I would be absolutely thrilled to see him join my Lakers. And I know people are like, yo, what's up? How many of these type of players do you want? But for me, it's like, you can never have enough shooting on your basketball team. You can never have enough two-way talent on your basketball team. And for me, with the success of what we're seeing with our shooter that we picked up at the trade deadline, this guy would fit right next to him in second units and even in the starting lineup. He could replace a guy like Rui and help us on both sides of the floor. Although Rui is more of a 3, he's more of a 2. I would feel absolutely comfortable with a guy like Braylon Mullins in my situation. He would help my defense and then just make our spacing absolutely impossible. So, yeah, and the energy, man. The energy is what I really love from Braylon Mullins. And another thing about Braylon Mullins that I think is kind of the same thing I said about Bennett Stirtz, is that he didn't have the greatest showing in college. And so his value in the draft, in theory, has fallen some. So if you're able to get him at 16, 17, 18, you are probably getting a top 8 talent. If he would have just been showcased as a top 8 talent at UConn, who valued showcasing play styles and winning championships over showcasing specific lottery talent. That's not that type of school. The type of school that UConn is, they're trying to win. The coach is the superstar, and the championships is the goal. As to where if he goes to a different organization that more so is interested in having their talent being drafted, he would have been showcased more so and likely would have been taken in the top 10. I still think there's a chance that people are going to look at Braylon Mullins like I do versus some of these other guys that are supposed to go top 10 and probably take Braylon Mullins over them dudes. Because there are a couple names above him on this tankathon thing that I'm just saying, yo, ain't no way I'm taking those people over Braylon Mullins. It's not happening. Two-way talent and movement shooting is such a rarity in this league. Guys who are talented movement shooters usually can't do anything else at all. And that's why it's not really something you see too much in this league right now. Them dudes, either they come in and they can't really defend, or they come in and suddenly forget how to shoot. But even if they are good at what they do, they're definitely not experts on the defensive end. I think Braylon Mullins being that way makes it absolutely impossible for me to undervalue him or to look at his year at UConn and say, yo, yeah, just let him slide because he didn't show me a lot. I need what he does more than I need to care about what he did last season if I'm most NBA teams. And that's what I will say about him. It's 6'6", good length, energetic defensively, God-level shooter. You got to take that dude in the top 12, in my opinion. You can't really let him fall past 12, in my humble opinion. And so that's my take on Braylon Mullins. I would take him sooner than what the consensus says. I'm a fan of what he does. I think he's better than what he showed last year at UConn. I think he's more so what he showed in high school than what he was able to show at UConn, man. And I'm a Braylon Mullins guy. Just put him on the list, man. I'm a Braylon Mullins guy. So that's what I want to put out there, man. I'm really starting to like a lot of these guys in the second half of the lottery more so than I like some of them dudes underneath the like 4, 5, and 6. Some of these guys, LeBaron Philon, and I'm gonna name them: Nate Ament, Acuff. Even though a lot of people love Acuff, I'm taking Flemings out of that because I'm starting to learn more about Flemings. He's got some stuff. He's got some development to do, but his ceiling is just like it's kind of can't miss. So I definitely think he should probably land at 5 or 6. But like Braden Burries is cool. I like Braden Burries. But like I don't like them dudes more than I like Mullins and Howe and Lindeborg and Brown. I just like those players more so. I think they're gonna help me more. I think they're likely to be more safe bets. So Wagler, obviously, one of my favorite players in this draft as well. So yeah, man, those two. Stirtz, I think if Stirtz were a bit more defensive and had a little more height on him and could play multiple positions, I think Bennett Stirtz can make other people better. I think Bennett Stirtz is going to make your team better if he gets in there and gets opportunity to put the ball in his hands, put a good pick and roll partner in there, some good rim protection, some good athletes. 3 years from now, he can have you in the playoffs as your starting point guard. I have no doubt that Bennett Stirtz' talent showed me enough, but you got to have the stuff around him that works. You got to have his Dyson Daniel defender next to him. You got to have his athletic four-man to dunk the ball. You got to have his center to rim protect. There's a lot of stuff that got to be in place, and you definitely can't have somebody like a 3 who needs the ball in their hands taking the ball out of his hands. It's just too much that comes together that needs to be in place. So, yeah, that's my only thing with Stirtz. But otherwise, if you have that situation, I wouldn't hesitate to fill in my situation with him. No, I wouldn't hesitate. Braylon Mullins fits anywhere. Fantastic shooter, fantastic defender. You probably want him in every team in the league, in my opinion. Even though he did have not so great of a college career, I do not care at all. And thing about Bennett Stirtz is he's 22 years old, so he's a little older. That's another thing to take into account. I think Braylon Mullins is 20. I'm not really remembering that clearly. All right, the next name, Kareem López. And Kareem López was a guy who I slowly but surely came around to liking what I saw. Early on, I was not overly excited about him. Kareem López is 6'8", 220. He might be a little heavier than that. Very strong, very unorthodox. There was a video that I watched, 30-minute video of a guy who is out of Brazil, who scouts players all over the world. He seems to think Kareem López is an elite defensive player. On-ball stuff, like real great on-ball defensive stuff. And he showed footage where Kareem López really impressed on the defensive end. I listened to other people that I've been listening to, and they don't think Kareem López is that great of a defender. So there are things about Kareem's defense that is really good, and there's some things about Kareem's defense that need a lot of work. That's what I take from it. That's the balance of it all. But Kareem is young. He's only 19 years old, and he's been playing in New Zealand with professionals. So his spacing is good. He's used to banging up against pro bodies. He's getting just an overall greater competition coming at him than what these collegiate guys are, and he's doing well with it. His offensive stuff is extremely unorthodox, but he can shoot the ball pretty well as a spot-up shooter. Can't move around shooting the ball, but if you get him the ball, leave him open, he can knock it down. And he uses his big body size very well. He can dish out a lot of punishment. I see some Blake Griffin in him. I see some. It's a couple people that I took away. He's not explosive like Blake, but his ground game, the way he moves people around, shoots the mid-range shot over folks, can make plays for others. Passing stuff was pretty impressive. He really does a little bit of everything, man. Legitimate two-way guy, but extremely unorthodox, man. His movements are unlike anybody else. He tends to be playing at a different wavelength as it pertains to his rhythm and his movements. He's just a little unorthodox. It's like watching somebody move backwards in a way. It's kind of strange how he moves, but because of it, he's very difficult to deal with. Couple that with the big size and strength. Scores well in the interior, can dunk the ball really well. He's explosive, not overly, but he's not deficient in terms of his explosiveness. Very good length, really, really nice standing reach. And when he gets off the ground, he can block shots with the best of them. Excellent weak side shot blocker. As I often talk about, my boy Rui Hachimura is underrated in that regard. This guy reminds me of Rui in that way. You let him play off ball, he's coming and he's going to block it. Weak side for certain. So there's a lot of stuff to like about Kareem López. I think, like I said, early on, listening to people talk, I wasn't excited. Looking at the footage, I wasn't excited. But the more I start to realize what he's coming into and versus what it is he's been experiencing, the more I realize he's probably more ready to help and more likely to translate very well into the league than maybe I anticipated. At a small forward, 6'8", 220, that's a huge human being you have to deal with. He could probably play some forward very comfortably as well. And with him having some good on-ball defensive stuff, I think some of the other things that he needs to work on can be worked on and mastered. And that's essentially what they were saying about him defensively. Also, very important information on Kareem López. He has ridiculously giant hands. Ridiculously giant hands. Not as big as Kawhi Leonard, but ridiculously giant just the same. So he's going to have good hands to be able to catch stuff. It's going to work shot blocking and things like that. But with guys with big hands, you also have to be concerned with hand injuries, finger breaking, stuff like that. That tends to come with them big mitts. They're soft hands, though, from what I understand. It's not like he has huge mitts to where he can't catch and all of that type of crap. He has very good hands, and he tends to be able to use them positively on both ends of the floor. So that is something that needs to be understood about Kareem López. Giant hands. So, yeah, the metrics are good. The size is good. His ability to utilize that side and play bully ball is good. The mid-range is good. Three-point shot pretty solid, depending on what it is that you're asking him to do. Probably would be able to set good screens, although I don't remember how they stated that part of his game, but he looks like he's sturdy enough to be able to do so. Tends to have some mental lapses on the defensive end. Still needs to learn how to read defenses best. Tends to get beat on back end, stuff like that, young guy stuff. But overall, this is a bruiser. This is an unorthodox bruiser with the ability to pull down some boards. From what I understand, he's a pretty good rebounder. The numbers are good, you know. He can block a shot, steal the ball. The assists aren't really there with the numbers, but they can come around. I'm sure he can improve there. 6 boards a game, 11 points. 73% from the free throw line, pretty average there. So this is a player that can really go, man, and he's really young. So you can kind of mold him to be whatever you want him to be. And, you know, the energy is there. The motor is there for him. So overall, I like Kareem López. It required me to do a lot of homework to get around to liking this player. If I'd have stopped early in the morning like I had started, I didn't have the greatest view on Kareem. But by the end of the day, I felt like Kareem López can be really good at the oversized 3 that can help you on both sides of the floor. Most definitely a project that is not ready to help you right now, but 3 years from now can be your starting small forward, creating havoc for the other team. And so I would feel very confident taking Kareem López if I'm a team like Chicago or Brooklyn, a rebuilding situation that can kind of mold my franchise in whatever direction. Memphis would be a good place for Kareem López. You know, I don't necessarily want to take him in a situation that's ready to win right now, thinking he's going to fill in a specific role. He may be able to help me right now, but that's not. He's going to have to do some growing before he's ready to win. So you got to take your time with him. He's a project, but probably a very good one, a worthy one to develop for certain. So I feel very confident taking Kareem López somewhere around the back of the lottery, 15, 16, 17. You know, somewhere in that range. You can do a lot worse for certain. And I think I'll play that value going to the right situation. He's been compared to Denny Avdia, who just made an all-star team. Can kind of run the floor with the ball in his hands a little bit. Good footwork and stuff like that. So I didn't necessarily see Denny myself, but I've heard multiple people compare him to Denny. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to say there, man. I heard some people compare him to OG Anunoby in a way. So take that for what it's worth. I didn't really see OG either. He's just a bruising small forward. He's going to be able to guard some forwards too. He's somebody that you're going to want to throw at heavier people because he should, in theory, be able to deal with them defensively, especially head up in half-court settings. You may put him on Paolo Banchero in the future. You may put him on Julius Randle in the future. You know that he's strong enough to at least hold his own with those people. So that's what I'll say. Very strong, probably one of the strongest players in this draft for his position. So that's what I wanted to say, man. Kareem López, Bennett Stirtz, and Braylon Mullins, man. All these guys I'm pretty confident are going to be good pros. Bennett Stirtz, the one I'm most concerned about as it pertains to the situation. Kareem López and Braylon Mullins, I feel a little bit better going to most NBA situations. But I think all three of them have the potential to be very good, man. So, yeah, I wanted to share that with y'all, man. Definitely enjoyed doing homework on all three of those players. With Stirtz, there's still more to do for me. But I feel confident that I know who Mullins and López are for sure. So, yeah, man, the homework continues. One guy a day. And we're almost through the first half of the first round. And we still got probably a month and a half of homework to do before I'm confident that it's time to do a mock draft. But what I can say about this draft is there's only a few guys in it, in that first 15, that I'm not really that high on. It's a good draft. That's essentially what I'm saying. And some of the guys in the middle of that draft I like as much as I like anybody in any of these drafts I've been doing homework on. So this is a very, very talented draft. And I'm confident you're going to find something in there if you're drafting for your team. So I think there are some teams that might want to try to get into this draft too, based on what it is I'm learning. So yeah, that's what I got to say, man. BDL 44. I thank y'all for watching.